Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Horizon Live. For the past weekend, our community has been fortunate enough to meet someone who is on the ground and doing the cause that we all believe in Turkey. As a member of the Turkish parliament, he has been able to address some of the critical issues that have been on the minds of our community, as well as, more important, advocate for democracy, human rights, and self-determination. We're very happy to have Garo Paylan in the studio with us today for our program. Mr. Paylan, welcome.
Thank you, Paris.
We will be right back to speak with Mr. Paylan on very critical issues after a quick break. Welcome back to our program. Our guest this evening today in the studio is Garo Paylan, a member of the parliament in Turkey representing the HDP party. Mr. Paylan, welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome to Los Angeles. This has been a very moving weekend for all of us.
For me too, ma'am.
Please tell us how you got involved in politics in Turkey.
I have always been an activist, starting with, of course, the Armenian community. I worked for the Armenian community, and then I just cared about the Armenian issues. I learned about the Armenian history from my grandmothers, and I had this in my heart. Then I worked for the Armenian struggle about the Armenian genocide. And then, unfortunately, we lost Hrant Dink, and I just worked for the Hrant Dink justice. Then Sevak Balıkçı as well. And we just searched for justice for all of these cases. And I met some friends, of course, the Armenians, and I met some Democrat Turks and Democrat Kurds, and they were also trying to build the justice for Armenians, for Kurds, and for Turks, and they were giving the struggle for a democratic Turkey. And I decided to be part of them, not only caring for only the Armenians, caring for everybody who is suffering. And they also cared about us, those Turks and Kurds, and they cared about us, and they were trying to make the government or the state recognizing the Armenian genocide. So we were together, and we just established our party, HDP, that is everybody's party who are Democrats, and that really heals us to care about each other.
Let's go and talk about the situation in Turkey today. We all know that there was a coup attempt in July, yet your party has not been so fortunate at post-coup. Tell us about the conditions in Turkey right now and how you're advancing democratic issues.
We had the peace process in Turkey starting from, let's say, 2013. And we had really romantic days. Everybody was asking for peace, and the democratic process was on the table. And everybody was taking the advantage of that. The Kurds, the Armenians, the Asbarez, even the LGBTs. But Tayyip Erdogan lost power with that peace process because the nationalists was blaming him. And the Statico was trying to just demolish the peace process. And Tayyip Erdogan had some conflict cases, and people got to know that. And afterwards, the Statico, Erdogan just walked with the Statico forces. It was a new coalition with the old state forces and new leader, new dictator candidate, Tayyip Erdogan. And it is a terrible coalition for everybody who wants democracy in Turkey. We believe in democracy, we believe in equality, but the Statico doesn't believe in it. They say Turkey belongs to the Turks. Whoever resists for this is a terrorist. Tayyip Erdogan is repeating the same sentences. That is terrible for the Democrats in Turkey who asks for justice and equality. So all the Democrats are suffering, unfortunately, in Turkey.
Where do you see Turkey going? Because since the coup, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of people imprisoned. Where is it going? Where
I have to tell about the coup. Actually, the coup has started a year ago. The coup has happened 2 months ago, but the coup has started a year ago that I told about. The peace process has demolished. And afterwards, a war started between PKK and the state forces as well. In a year, 8,000 people killed 8,000 people. 8,000. But as I see here, it is not on the media at all. The West has the blind eye on it. So Tayyip Erdogan and the state forces are going on with this terrible agenda. So I was warning my friends in the parliament, if you go on with this war, there is going to be a coup. The Statico just wanted this war. They need an enemy, they need dead bodies, so they go on with it. And afterwards we had the coup. But that night I spoke to my co-chair, Selahattin Demirtaş and Figen Yüksekdağ. Let's just say to the government and Tayyip Erdogan, let's get a lesson out of this coup and let's go back to democracy and let's go back to peace process. But the response was harsh. Tayyip Erdogan, of course, I'm so happy that this coup has not succeeded. It's so important. So we would lose everything what we have about democracy. But Tayyip Erdogan, after the coup, used this coup attempt to get rid of all the opposition, opposition camp, let's say. Not only the Gülenists, they blame Gülenists to be responsible about this coup, but they also getting rid of the Kurds, the leftists, then who are next to supporting the Kurds or the peace process. So we are living very dark days in Turkey as Democrats.
Now, your parliamentary mandate has been removed, correct? So where do you stand as a member of parliament?
I and my friends from HDP went to the parliament with hopes, really. We had very big hopes about peace, about changing the constitution, because our constitution says Turkey belongs to Turks, that is it. One nation, one identity, one religion, that is it. So we wanted to change it in a pluralistic way. We want diversity by all means. And but as I said, after I got elected, the war has started. So the polarization is deepening and deepening when we get the war. People with this polarization, that hate speech and hate crimes are on the table. And the more state forces kill the Kurds, the more people goes to the mountains to attend PKK. That is a vicious circle, and we, HDP, are trying to stop that. Every war has to stop one day. We are saying this war is a blind war and people are dying. The poor Turks and the poor Kurds are dying. Only Statico is getting the power. So even if we fight for 10 more years, at last we are going to go to the peace table, which happened in Colombia with the FARC guerrillas. They had this fight for 50 years, and afterwards they went to the table. So let's go to the table today, not 10 years later, with 10,000 more, without 10,000 more dead bodies on our hand, because I buried so many young Kurds who are 14, 15, 16. That is terrible. That is really poisoning us, poisoning all of us. So as I said, unpunished crimes lead to new crimes. It started from, of course, the genocide. It was the Armenians, us, 100 years ago. 100 later, unfortunately, it is the Kurds now.
What's the future? Is it bright, in your opinion?
Yeah, no, this is a fascist way, dark fascist way. In the 30s, Germany, it's all like that. The fascist waves are it's a huge storm over us, because the Tayyip Erdogan blames everybody who is against him, who criticizes him, and says whoever criticizes me is a terrorist. When we calculate it, it makes in Turkey 30 million people are terrorists, but they are silent. The fear factor is on the table for Armenians, for Kurds, let's say for the Democrats, for the leftists, for the secular ones as well. But the Kurds are still asking for peace. But on the, let's say, Turkish side, none of the organizations, none of the political parties or NGOs asks for peace because they are afraid somehow, but most of them are educated with a nationalist system. That is why Tayyip Erdogan calls this as an independence war, like they called 100 years ago as an independence war. But 100 years ago, this independence war was against Armenians, Assyrians, Jews, and the Greeks, let's say. They got rid of all of these Christian population. And they gathered all the Muslim identities and said, whoever calls them as a Turk, how happy is a man if he calls him or her as a Turk? That was the ideology, and that ideology always need enemies. For 100 years, it was always like this. Sometimes the conservatives, sometimes the Armenians, sometimes the Greeks or the Kurds. It is the Kurds again, and the Armenians, of course, for the nationalists. But we give a huge struggle against this. But these kind of waves, fascist waves, are terrible. So we have to wait for a new spring. But till that spring comes, we are really running like a fireman. Every day we are going to trials because they are arresting so many intellectuals, writers, and journalists as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a free media in Turkey. We used to have some, but Erdogan puts them into the jail. We don't have a free media at all. So we are giving a really harsh struggle against this fascist wave.
We're going to continue our conversation. We'll be right back after a brief break. Welcome back, everyone. If you are just joining us, my guest this evening in the studio is member of the Turkish Parliament from the HDP party, Garo Paylan. Welcome back, Mr. Paylan.
Thank you, Ara.
I want to go to that moment on April 24th when you got up as a member of the Parliament and showed the photographs of the Armenians who served in the Ottoman Parliament. People you're technically taking their seats. How did that feel?
Yeah. In Turkey, most of the people know nothing about their history. Nothing. Only some slogans and saying that, you killed 1.5 million Armenians, and Turks are saying this is a lie. The Armenians killed 1 million Turks. And this is all numbers, and they say, no, it was not 1.5 million, it was only 300,000 Armenians we killed. Like 300,000 is nothing, it doesn't matter. But each of them were individuals. I had an idea to show those individuals. I am a deputy in the parliament, and I should show those individuals where they were in the parliament 100 years ago. And I just made them ready in my speech, and I showed them, these are the MPs, deputies 100 years ago, Kirkor Zohrab and the Hawarian, all of them. And it really touched people, touched the members of the parliament. Of course, some of them shouted at me the nationalists, very hardliner nationalist ones. And after my speech, even the nationalist ones came around me and asked, who are these men? We don't know nothing about them. And I just told about them and just delivered some books about them. And they read it and said, I said they had dreams, they had demands about democracy, about the local democracy, gender rights, and labor rights as well. The İttihat and Terakki Party betrayed those dreams. They didn't betray Turkey at all. They were killed. And so I showed them that was important. We shouldn't only speak about numbers. Numbers are cold. But if we show one picture of an individual and tell about his or her dream, it is more strong. It is stronger.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the tide is changing in Turkey despite the oppressive approaches of the government? Are there more people willing to understand the history?
Yeah. You know what, in the romantic days, it is easier when you don't have a conflict. But, you know, in our party, we have like teeth. Which teeth? If you have a teeth ache, you are just taking care of that teeth. And everybody is looking to that teeth. Now we are more Kurd, because Kurds give a struggle, and the government forces are demolishing their cities, towns. Every day we have 30 or 40 dead bodies in our hands. That is why we can't deal with the Armenian issue so much. We need a peace process for the Kurds, and we need a democratic process. Then the Armenian issue again can be on the table on the first round. So, but we are so far away from that. But I'm trying to really, tomorrow we will have Hrant Dink's trial again. And but we are so far away from recognizing of the genocide, because we commemorate, you know, the bad things what happened in the history. But today we are living bad days. Yes. Today we are living the same days like we lived 100 years ago. And
we must not repeat it. There are two other Armenians in the Turkish parliament with you. What is your relation with them?
Yeah, you know, Selina Doğan is my friend, and Markar Esayan used to be closer, but he's the member of the AKP, which is the ruling party. Selina Doğan is my friend as well. She is in the CHP. They say they are the leftist party, but somehow they have the nationalist roots, let's say. So they are not so free to ask for justice for genocide, or ask for the other Armenian issues. I'm so free for that, because my party has just recognized the genocide. Our co-chairs condemned the genocide, saying by the word genocide. It is important, and it is so easy for them to ask justice for Hrant as well. So I'm proud of my party, but they are not that free. But they are my friends, of course.
Is there going to be justice for Hrant Dink in January? It'll be 10 years since his assassination.
Yeah.
Or do you have hope?
You know, after the Hrant Dink murder, we were there and we just established Hrant Dink's Friends. And I'm an activist for that organization for 10 years. They just hide from us most of the videos, but from 2 videos we had, we saw some people around Hrant when he got shot. We asked for 10 years, who are those guys? Because they were calling each other. And now we see that they say those guys are Gülenists who are responsible for the coup. They waited for 10 years. But we say those are not only Gülenists. For 10 years, there are several actors from the pro-Kemalist groups, from, let's say, the nationalist parties, from the AKP, bureaucracy, and of course there are some Gülenist actors as well, who they call that they are Gülenists. So we want justice to get rid of this ideology, who just rationalizes for an Armenian to be killed. We have to punish this and find all the actors. So we are giving struggle for this. One day we are going to achieve, but we shouldn't wait so long. Now, for 10 years we have waited, and the same ideology is going on. If we can find a justice for Hrant, we might stop the other murders, other crimes.
You have given the word courage a new meaning and a and a new face. Are you afraid of your life?
No, if I was to be afraid of my life, I couldn't do these kind of things. Yeah, you know what? I'm in a party. People give struggle, in for every means, and we don't have fear at all. Because if we have this fear, we can't, give the struggle against this fascist wave. I'm not thinking about, but the fear factor is on the table for the Armenian community in Turkey. I have to consider that. That is why I'm trying to be, I don't have the right to make them have more fear. That is asking from me to be aman mahçız mınar şatmi hosir pamı ıllar anor hamar esal uşatır ıllalı gıçanam.
Very good. You have spent the last 3 days in Los Angeles. What were your thoughts about our community?
I'm so impressed, really, because they know about Turkey. They are just following what is going on in Turkey, and as I saw, they are really so passionate about their identity, and they care about what is going on in Turkey. That is important, and that is what I said to the children. I visited some Armenian schools, that don't forget, all the Turks are not the same. There are Democrat Turks, there are nationalist Turks, there are the good guys and the bad guys, like every identity. So we have to really make relations with the good Turks, the Democrat Kurds, to get, in our party we made it. Let's say the Kurdish party BDP has 6% of the votes. When we came together, in a year we became 13%. We were to be 20%, over 20%, but the war has started. The polarization again happened. That is why everybody is suffering in Turkey. So the Armenians here has to really look to their roots. And of course, they might have anger to the Turks or Kurds, but we have a wound which is still open but it had been 100 years. We have to really heal that wound. To heal that wound, we have to touch the Turks, the Democrat Turks. And when we come together, we can solve problems easily.
And what do you think the community should do for Armenians in Turkey to realize that there is a groundswell of support for that community?
The Armenians here?
Yes.
There are 1 million Armenians in Los Angeles, and totally, I guess, more than 2 million Armenians in the States. So it's a big group. Yeah, and you have to put pressure on the Obama administration or the administration who is going to be elected. Really, because the Obama administration doesn't seem to be, worrying about the human rights violations in Turkey. Mr. Biden, he was in Turkey a week ago, and he just shaking Tayyip Erdogan's hand and smiling and showing his 32 of his teeth. That is terrible. And I don't know, and he said nothing about the human rights violations, only caring about the Incirlik base, which is in Turkey, and he's only caring about the war going on in Syria. But where are the Western values, I'm asking? Where are the United States values? Now, West has a blind eye on these human rights violations, but if you just close your eyes for a bad thing going on there, that bad thing one day is going to come to here. We have to stop wherever on the world who is suffering. If we have a conscience, if we have a heart, we have to really at least criticize the dictators, not to open the ways to the dictators. But in the Middle East, again, unfortunately, the West says, in the Middle East, we can't achieve a democracy. We tried it, but it is not functioning. So we can work with the dictators. Putin is there, Assad is there, Tayyip Erdogan can be there. And in Egypt, we have another dictator, Sisi. But it is no good. The dictators only invest on weapons. And that weapons, today it is a tank, tomorrow it might be a chemical bomb, the other day it might be a nuclear bomb. And these kind of dictators, like in North Korea, he has a nuclear bomb. It is terrible. So all over the world, we have to support the Democrats, and we have to make every country as a democratic country. Turkey still is a candidate for it.
Yes.
Still.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Paylan, for
you.
your time. You have really invigorated us to look into your activities and fight alongside you. We have your back.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.